Now I have the great pleasure to introduce and welcome our first foreign guest speaker, the UK Ambassador to Sweden, Mr. Paul Johnston. Before arriving in Stockholm in August 2011, he served in Paris and New York and has also a wide range of political and security roles in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office of London. Today we are pleased to have him here to tell us about the UK life science strategy. Mr. Ambassador, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very much, Madam Governor, for hosting us in your wonderful residence. Thank you, Carol Newman. When I was a young boy growing up in Scotland, my parish priest once told me an anecdote, and I can't remember the context, but it feels rather relevant today, about two cows standing by the side of a motorway, and a large lorry went past with pasteurised milk, high-quality pasteurised milk on the side of the lorry. And one cow turned to the other cow and said, "Doesn't it make you feel inadequate?" And I feel a little bit the same here, a humble political scientist in front of a collection of proper scientists, as I would see it. But happily, I'm only the warm-up man in the UK delegation, and George Freeman and Professor Boucher, who are much more knowledgeable about the subject, will be able to deal with your questions and comments. But I'm really happy here to have the opportunity to set out the main themes of the UK's life sciences strategy. It's a sector to which the government devotes an enormous amount of importance for reasons that all of you will be familiar with. I think there are no doubt things that we can learn from the Swedish experience. I hope there will be some things that perhaps, as Richard mentioned, in the context of the patent box, that others can perhaps learn from our experience. But it's a great honour and privilege for us to be invited to take part in this seminar today with Forska, Sverige-dagen, and very pleased to be here. George Freeman and I had the pleasure last night to have a dinner at my residence in which we brought together around 30 Swedish pharmaceutical research scientific companies with UK equivalents to talk about the possibilities for collaborating in the life sciences and biotech field. We had a really interesting, I think, discussion about some of the big challenges that our speakers today have been alluding to, and I think this underpins the potential for even further cooperation between the UK and Sweden. Let me say a little bit about then the UK's approach to the question of life science and the context, the government policy context that we're undertaking. It happens in the UK against the backdrop, obviously, of a very difficult economic situation. Sweden and the UK, I think, both believe in taking difficult but necessary decisions to create the right conditions for economic growth and prosperity, and we both recognise the need to continue to modernise our economies and our societies faced with the challenges of a globalising marketplace. We both therefore recognise that creating a stable, business-friendly but also science-friendly macroeconomic environment is key to enabling growth, and we both want to create the right conditions for companies to flourish, particularly in areas where we add value, and to promote free trade bilaterally in the EU and internationally. Just to mention, because I think it's part of the relevant context, that a few weeks ago the UK announced a new industrial strategy, which in the British political lexicon sometimes sounds like a rather old-fashioned thing, but it was a very modern industrial strategy, recognising that developing countries are competing more intensively higher up the value chain, and that we need to sort of look again at the fundamentals of how we protect the industry we have, not in an old-fashioned sense, but in a modernising sense, and how we compete with the challenges of globalisation. I think Sweden faces similar challenges and is certainly viewed in the UK as a company that has perhaps over time had a more strategic approach to its key industries. Our industrial strategy will focus on the challenges of competitiveness, sustained economic growth and broad-based prosperity. We'll be getting behind those industries and those areas of industry where we think there are important comparative advantages. At the same time, we recognise the wider need to promote overall growth in our economy through attractive policies on taxation, regulation, and promoting free and efficient markets. And we'll look in particular to develop strategies in the areas of aerospace, energy and non-health life sciences. We'll be focusing on interventions to improve technology development, procurement, skills, and access to finance in all these sectors. Our life science strategy is it's a sector that we've given support to in the past. Under the previous government, we established an Office for Life Sciences in 2009 in our enterprise department, the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills. The idea was to set out a package of action to improve the UK operating environment for the pharmaceutical, medical, medtech and biotechnology areas. We began with a life sciences blueprint in 2009, and then that was superseded by a more substantial strategy for UK life sciences produced in 2011. We're now well into 9 months into the implementation of that strategy, and it's perhaps a good moment to take stock of the new measures and what has changed. We start with some good, I think, natural advantages, a very vibrant science base, some outstanding universities and other institutions, a desire to collaborate across borders, and a science funding settlement which should allow our researchers to do just that. George Freeman was saying last night that one of our science ministers' proudest achievements is in the context of an overall public spending assessment in Britain, when public spending is being squeezed quite heavily, many government departments being cut by, say, 20%. The government science budget has been ring-fenced and therefore will not be falling, and I think that indicates the importance we attach to this sector. And we see the same emphasis, as was said in the announcement last week by Minister Björklund, of increased Swedish government spending in the area of science and research and development. In the UK, we are committed to investing in research and development. We have a number of new initiatives which we brought out in the life science strategy, and I'll try and set out today a little bit about some of the measures in the strategy on areas like access to finance and skills for industry, improving the tax regime, and improving the ability of our National Health Service to innovate and to contribute to developments. In terms of the tax regime, our general commitment is to make the UK one of the best environments in the world to set up, start and run a business. We're already rated by the World Bank, I think, as one of the top 10 countries in which to set up a business. We want to continue to attract investment in research and development and indeed wider business investment into our country, and we are seeking to improve the tax system so as to do that. We have a commitment to steady reductions in the rate of corporation tax, which is due to fall from 28% to 23% by 2014. And in particular, we'll be bringing improvements into the research and development tax credit regime from next year. A particular innovation has been mentioned is directly aimed at the life sciences sector. This is the so-called patent box, which begins next year, under which there will be a reduced 10% rate of corporation tax on profits from patents or similar types of intellectual property. It will apply to worldwide income generated from existing as well as new intellectual property, and it's estimated, and we hope, will be of benefit potentially to up to 5,000 companies operating in the UK. In terms of what we're doing with the National Health Service, on clinical trials we've introduced the National Office of Clinical Research Infrastructure, which industry tells us is already making a difference in getting better access to a huge amount of data for R&D purposes in our National Health Service. We understand the importance of clinical trials and the data that can be made available to industry, and we're spending, the NHS is spending around £1 billion a year through the National Institute of Research. More generally, the concept of open data is an important part of our life sciences strategy. We want to ensure that data from research and clinical practice is made available for the benefit of improving clinical outcomes and enhancing the UK's ability to undertake research and product development. So we've developed more and better ways to do this, such as the Clinical Practice Research Data Link, established in March of this year by the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency and by the National Institute of Health Research. This will provide researchers with access to anonymised patient data for clinical trials and observational studies, and an NHS Information Centre secure data linkage service will follow. We've also launched the NIHR-supported Clinical Trials Gateway website. Mobile applications have been launched to provide patients with information on clinical trials in the UK, and the gateway has already been augmented with additional sources of information. The aim of this is to empower patients to be able to actively participate themselves in clinical research. There's also a growing emphasis on skills in the life science strategy. It introduces a degree accreditation programme by the Society of Biology to ensure that the UK's skills base consists of high quality graduates, technicians and apprentices. We, like you, I'm sure, consider that developing our people is investing in one of our most crucial assets. So the National Institute of Health Research will also award 8 new research professorships, aiming to offer selected leaders the chance to transition to long-term research funding support in the early parts of their career, starting next year. We also want to provide an alternative pathway through high-level apprenticeships for professional technicians, with 9 places already on the pilot scheme and an additional 20 places coming this month. We need good lab technicians just as much as we need great researchers. Then on the question of access to finance, in the UK we've maintained a high level of funding for R&D, as I said, even as for wider economic reasons we've been forced to cut back elsewhere. And we saw as well, we welcomed Sweden's recent announcement of 11.5 billion additional krona for research and development over the next 4 years. We are committed to taking scientific research closer to the market, and we have a £180 million biomedical catalyst fund announced in the life sciences strategy, which will increase research, increase collaboration between our researchers and British companies. Just in August this year, we announced £10 million of funding awarded to universities and to small and medium-sized enterprises. And we, like you, are investing further in our research infrastructure. The Medical Research Council's Laboratory of Molecular Biology in Cambridge, the birthplace, of course, of DNA sequencing, is being rebuilt and is due to be completed this autumn. The Crick Institute in London is due to open in 2015 as a centre of biomedical research and innovation, and our stem cell therapies catapult will be located at Guy's Hospital, also in London, and will work to grow a sustainable cell therapy industry in the UK. We've also developed Imanova, a state-of-the-art imaging research facility, building on strengths in cancer and neuroscience imaging. The facility is a partnership between the Medical Research Council and the 3 London universities of Imperial College, University College London and King's College. It's been made possible by GSK transferring its imaging facility in London to the partnership, and it aims to provide a national hub for access to world-class imaging facilities and a focus for academic and commercial collaboration. We think we need to reach out from these centres and promote collaboration with the best and the brightest. That includes particularly in Sweden, and we're extremely interested in the SciLife Lab and the NKS development here in Stockholm, and we'd be interested in exploring in that area a bit more generally how we could collaborate more. In conclusion then, I think that Sweden and the UK face similar challenges in terms of identifying and sustaining economic growth. There's a lot we can learn from each other. We're both making policy interventions in this area to bolster the value chain and to underpin the importance of science. I think we'll both continue to work with the life science industry as a crucial component of our national economic and wider societal well-being. And I think we will want to do our utmost to continue to work with you across the board to build up useful business and research connections for our mutual benefit. Thank you for your attention, and with that I'll hand back to Anna.